Well, hello. It's Sunday. It's just gone 9:40 p.m. in London, UK. Welcome to Wicked Women. We are a little bit late. We're sort of stuck between the 9 o'clock and the 10 o'clock time in the UK, and few technical issues behind the scenes here. So hence why we're coming in maybe a bit early, maybe a bit late, the which way you want to see it. But welcome anyway. So I'm going to bring in my lovely co-host, the lovely Val, coming all the way from Virginia. Hello, my love.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm here today.
Yes.
That's about all I can say about today.
I know that feeling. It's been a bit of a tough week. We are just the two of us tonight. Carly couldn't be here, and she's kind of gutted she's not here, but she's with us in spirit. So it's me and you, and we couldn't do last week because you weren't well, were you? You weren't feeling at all good.
I was not. I could not talk without coughing. So
I remember on the phone you were like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And then Carly wasn't great. So, and the thing is, I think life is very much like a roller coaster these days, isn't it? You make plans to do things, and as time goes on, you think I'm going to do it, and then it just doesn't happen. But we're here, and I know you've had a stressful weekend, so
I have. I'm sleepy.
Yes. Well, hopefully this topic will wake you up. As I say, welcome to Wicked Women, coming live from London and tonight Virginia in the United States. And congratulations, first of all, on your president winning.
Yes, I had to worry it. So.
Yes, I stayed up and watched it, and it was so fascinating just watching it. It's so different from British elections. British elections are like snoozy, snoozy, snoozy.
Oh, really?
It's completely different, and I was like, I really liked this. So I kind of fell asleep, woke up, watched it, fell asleep, woke up, watched it, and it was fascinating. But I know you all got the result that so many of you wanted.
Yeah. Hopefully, we pray that he can bring change back over here.
So many countries in the world that could do with change right now, isn't it? And including us, because we're going down the Swanee, let me tell you that. And I don't think there's a big enough boat to take us all in it. So hopefully tonight's topic, which is kind of interesting, and Carly's left us to do it.
I know, right?
I know, like we needed the Carly element, and she's completely taken herself off. But we are talking about erotica.
Mm-hmm.
And because I actually was going to call it something else, and then it was put to me, actually I think this is a better name. So I was like, okay. And I tried to put a promo up which actually didn't have, it just had erotica in it, and every time I put it up they went, no, you can't have it on, and there was nothing explicit. But
the thing about it is Facebook will let things on there that are way more explicit than words.
I know.
I think it just depends on who puts it up.
Well, I think they've just got a vendetta for me. I honestly think they do. So
Could
erotica,
be it.
interesting subject. Let's have a look at it, because I don't know about you, but when I was a young lass growing up in the 70s, you know, it was all like, your brother or maybe your mum and dad or someone else's mum and dad. They had like Playboy or porn magazine shoved under the bed or under the mattress, or there was a box of books with explicit pictures. Did you have that? Was that the kind of
Oh,
growing up you had?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think my parents' favorite place was they had the dresser in their bedroom with the hutch on top. They
Yeah.
had the crown molding around it, so just over that crown molding was their stash. So yeah,
The stash.
yeah.
That didn't happen in my house. I don't, but I remember when I was 8, around about 7 or 8. I was at school night, and I got up to have a pee, and I'd gone into the bathroom, and my brother had found actually a book of my uncle's, and I found it, right, and I started reading it. And I must have, I don't know, it didn't make any sense to me. I was only young. Anyway, but I remember when my mum came home, she'd been out like working. And when she come home, I was like, Mum, she was like, yeah. I went, what does fuck me harder mean? And
Oh, that is so
and
not something a mother
looked
wants
at
to
me.
hear.
She looked at me and she went, I'm sorry.
I'm
And I had
sorry,
not a
excuse me.
clue. I had not a
What
clue.
was it
So I
you
said, and then she kind of pulled me by the ear and said, what was that you just said? And I said, well, I was reading it in a book. And she said, what book? And I went and got the book, and she got hold of my brother
Oh, you
and
just
beat
destroyed
him.
your brother.
She beat him from one side of the house to the other. And when I asked her what it meant, she went, it's a word for grown-ups. So that was my very early, and obviously like seeing boys talk about Playboy was around. And I was looking back at, we're just starting off looking at Playboy, because back in the 50s, there was some very famous ladies that actually took all their clothes off and
Yeah.
did the photographs. But if you think about it, erotica, sex, has been around since we began, whether it's being cave drawings, Pompeii. You go to Pompeii and you're going to the brothels and you'll see exactly what each prostitute was good at.
You know, what that makes me think of is when you go into a tattoo shop and they've got all their designs on the walls. It's like, oh, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it makes me think of when, men go into the brothels and there's drawings everywhere. They're like, yeah, give me that.
Well,
I want
that's what
that and
Pompeii's
that.
like. Pompeii, when I went there, it was such a shock to see that. But there actually is sex between a female and a male on a clay plaque from 2000 BC. And also there are other such erotic descriptions and pictures and paintings and sculptures, etc., throughout time. Sex sells. Right. It's also something that people like to get their teeth into and their hands on, etc., and many early cultures often associated the sexual act with supernatural forces, believe it or not. And their religion was entwined with that. So such countries such as India, Sri Lanka, Japan, Korea, and China, they all had it. And of course, we can't forget the ancient Greeks and Romans, who basically did a damn fine job.
Well, the in India, you have the Kama Sutra, so exactly. Women are taught how to please a man. I mean,
yes.
So when they got married, they pretty much knew how to take care of you.
And also, what was interesting, when I was doing some research today, they actually said that there's actually a homosexual courtship scene on I pronounce this right, Athenian black figure amphora, 540 BC. So it's always been out there. And I think that as time's gone on, in the Victorian era,
Well,
it wasn't really talked about, but that's actually when pornographic erotica actually started to come out.
sure, yeah. But it was, I think why it was such a big deal is because, I mean, women couldn't show their ankles, but they could show, all of their boobage up under their neck.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, men's doing, you know, um, and women were kind of, shied away from it. So it was kind of a men's thing. Women were not, it wasn't proper for a woman to do that or to see anything like that or to feel that any kind of way.
And I think that, if you think about it in a lot of ways, as each generation comes along, they think they're the generation that talks more about sex and brings it more out into the open. And in some ways that's true. But actually, I think it's just, I don't know in some ways if we've gone for the better in some ways or the worse in others. But I
Yeah.
mean, looking at Pompeii, for example, and very much the drawings of orgies and sex acts and everything else. I mean, when I went there and I saw it on Pompeii, really detailed, and the woman's name underneath and what she was good at. And you think, like, this is a civilization that has been gone thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yet those drawings survive. And Pompeii shows very much erotic. And I think that there's something that's, I've always said erotica is seen as the nicer, sexier, where porn has that kind of seedy name to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds better to say erotica than it does, that ugly word.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like it's okay to like erotica because it's not really porn. It's not as taboo as that name.
Erotica sounds sexy, doesn't it?
Exactly. And it doesn't sound, when you think of that, you think of more, I wouldn't say, well, you don't think of erotica as being as dirty as porn.
Yes, porn still has that kind of name, as in it's dirty, it's seedy.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a very intelligent lady tonight who actually is clued up on a lot of stuff, and we were talking about different stuff, and she says to me, and it was a very, very true saying. And I wrote it down really quick, so bear in my mind, healthy sex needs to be enjoyed, explored, and talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the same thing what we're talking about with erotica. If it's healthy, but also there's the other side of things as well, isn't there? The seedy side of stuff that a lot of people were drawn to. And for me, like when I was growing up as a young girl, I don't think there was really many females. I mean, in my era, so 70s, female sex symbols. There was like Farrah Fawcett, of course, Farrah Fawcett Majors, and Charlie Angels, Bo Derek, stuff like that. None of them made me look at them and go, I want to be her. I want to be her. She's really sexy.
Yeah.
What about you? Which woman did you identify with?
Well, see, mine was always, because I'm a nerd, it was always Linda Carter. Because she was Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So, she was beautiful and strong and could kick, their asses. But as far as sexualized, I don't think I saw her as, like a sex symbol. It was more strong and, could pretty much do what she wanted to do and made people tell the truth. And, the more comic book side,
Yeah.
rather than well, she's got on this, strapless bathing suit, and it wasn't erotic per se to me. It was more, I liked watching her, you know, with her lasso, but it wasn't sex. Sex didn't come into it. That makes
It's
sense.
interesting though, because I look back at Linda Carter and she had such an amazing costume, great boobs, the waist and the
Yeah.
great bum. And obviously people remember Bo Derek running along the beach with the braids. A lot of guys fantasized,
And
and I'm
Daisy
sure
Duke.
and still went to bed thinking about her quite a lot. Some guys weren't obviously into her at all, but I think for me it was like I didn't read. I mean, Kim Wilde, she was a great singer in the 80s. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys. Debbie Harry was another person that women, very sexy woman. Debbie
Yeah.
Harry, very very sexy. They sort of, and then Madonna came along with, and she kind of brought out sex. It was okay. Here was a woman talking about sex and using erotica. She did the book Erotica, and it
Oh
was like,
yeah, I waited in line for that
me
book.
too. I still have it.
I've got it somewhere.
And
But but I
she got
think but I
slated.
think she came along right when a lot of us were at that stage.
Yeah.
Before then we were more kids and didn't necessarily see like Bo Derek and all them as what the whole world saw them as.
Yeah.
But after we got a little older, then Madonna came out, and then she came out with that book, and I think I had just hit 18,
Yeah, me too. Around that
so I
age.
was able to buy it because
Yeah.
you had to be 18 to buy it. So I think that maybe piqued our curiosity more, because actually now that book is tame.
Well, it is. Apart from the fact that when you look at some of the photographs, you think, I think she's with Vanilla Ice in one of them, and they were getting it on at the time. But I remember going to the coast when I was a child, and they had the naughty postcards with there was always the breast sticking out with the nipples that you could hang your washing on, and there was always these saucy comments. And then you had films like the Carry On films in the UK, where there
Mhm.
was always like, it's an alternative meaning to what we're saying.
Right.
Oh doctor, careful there, vicar, and all that kind of stuff. There was all this kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And the British seem to have very much a out there, in the 60s, very much 60s, 70s, we're talking about sex, it's out there. And so erotica was just sort of a natural thing that came along. But coming from that era as a girl, my parents did not talk to me about this is what you do and stuff like that. If anything, they tried to keep a lid on it. And I didn't know about, my mother, bless her heart, for whatever reason, maybe she thought she was doing me a favor. She didn't talk about sex or masturbation or any of those things that you go into. And you just think like, there's this whole side of my life that I didn't know that I had to catch up. And I think very much in looking back in England, before I come to the American side of way of things, but in England, we've always had the French photographs, in the Victorian, the half naked woman with just a bit of breast showing. The
Take me
nipple,
like one of your French ladies. Yeah.
yeah, the nipple might be pointed in one set way, or erotic prints being sold in shops. And also, obviously, printed literature. I mean, it was a scandal, but people would,
Mhm.
you've seen these movies where they're done in the Victorian era, and they've got these scandalous pictures. But these women were beautiful and
Yeah.
dressed as what gentlemen in that days would have thought that looks attractive. I mean,
Yeah.
now you go to OnlyFans, where we go completely to where you can buy anything online and get anyone to do anything pretty much for you.
But I think a lot of the one of the biggest differences that we came from, it's you had the Victorian ladies, with their corsets and their shirts, off and all this. It was classier.
It was.
It was more romanticized.
Mm.
And then even the pinup girls were romanticized. And then now you've got OnlyFans and there's raunchy. I mean, it's like, it's not, there's no mystery. There's no romantic elephant element to it. It's
on both sides of the coin, whether it's men or women.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
because I mean, and it's on Twitter as well. What I didn't realize about X these days, Twitter and old days, is that if you go on X, you can see quite a lot, and you're like, when did this happen? Did I miss? And obviously over the years, I've seen some things, and you're like, wow, Elon Musk, you really have opened it up,
Hey, freedom of speech, I guess. But I mean, it kind of went from, in my opinion, it went from classy and what you would think of when you say erotica to raunchy porn.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the same thing, but it just kind of got not as taboo, not as, you don't have to be, in the back room with a flashlight anymore.
Yes, exactly. Because and there was always that secret element to it, wasn't it? It was like, oh, look, don't say anything, but look at this, And I had an English teacher years ago, and I won't say her name, but I had an English teacher, and she'd actually done a centerfold for a top shelf magazine, and obviously one of the boys had found it. Obviously, they didn't know it was her. They'd obviously bought a magazine, and she'd been had it reprinted, and they put it on the blackboard. So when she'd come in, we're all sitting there going, oh my God, she's come in and seen it. And she's obviously said, okay. She knew what to say. She just kind of took it down and went and just kind of put it down. And it was a bit of a shock, because I remember that in the 60s or 70s, when there's obviously with Doctor Who, there's different female assistants, and the female assistants have got sexier and sexier and sexier because the dads watched it, and the cleavage had to be out, and the skirts had to get. And there was an assistant called Jo Grant, and Katie Manning, and she basically took all her clothes off and wrapped herself around a Dalek in a particular pose, which is still iconic today. And everyone was like, oh my God, they have, look at this, and good for her. Like, I mean, the Dalek is very phallic with the stick at the front, but it was an amazing picture. But
well, back when they first started letting little bits and pieces of nudity in movies, Sharon Stone, when she uncrossed her legs, you got that peak, but it wasn't, full on, the deed. So, it kind of like, it was enough to get your blood pressure up a little.
Yeah.
But it wasn't porn. You know what I mean? And I think we've lost a lot of that. We've lost a lot of that intrigue. Like, oh my God, are they going to show that?
Yeah.
Because now you can go pull up a movie and see just about anything you want to see.
Well, the thing is, do you remember the movie? And I was looking at some of the erotic movies in Hollywood that's done over the years, and just picking out a few. But you probably remember the one called Last Tango in Paris,
Hmm.
which was Marlon Brando.
Hmm.
And that was seen as a real shocker when it came out because Marlon Brando treated I can't remember the name of it, I'm just trying to find it, of the actress. It was well known that she absolutely was traumatized by filming that movie with Marlon Brando, because there's a particular scene where I think it's very famous where he tells her to go and get butter, and she goes to get the butter, and he then quite forcibly has anal sex with her. And that was absolutely, when it came out, it was like 1972 when that came out. And it was a very much an erotic drama, they put it
Yeah.
down as, about an American who begins an anonymous sexual relationship with a young woman. And I have yet to see all of it. I've seen bits and pieces of it. One of these days I must just like dig it out. Have you seen it? Did you watch
No,
it?
not that I remember.
Well,
I don't remember ever seeing it.
it's quite the movie from what I hear. And then you sort of go to do you remember Joan Collins? She was in The Stud.
Yeah.
That was another movie that I mean, Joan Collins wanted to take that role because it was written by her sister, Jackie Collins, who
Hmm.
was, I had all her books. Jackie Collins was my goddess when I was
Oh,
growing
she
up.
was a lot of people's goddess.
I still have her books. And I loved it. I just couldn't wait and I loved it because all her women were strong. They were all strong, independent, sexy women who knew what they wanted and took
Yeah.
what they wanted. And the guys were not so much they weren't so much in the forefront. They were in the back. I'm just trying to bring up here
Right.
The Stud. And Joan Collins said, look, there's never been a movie like that where there's a woman strong. I want to do it. And so it was made in 1978. And she was basically the owner of a London disco who makes demands on the man, Oliver Tobias, great looking guy, who runs it. And there was lots of sex in it. Joan got her kit off and you saw everything, and there was great sex from it. And then there was even a film with Sylvester Stallone in, looking at that one coming up, which is called The Italian Stallion, believe it or not. And so these are what I remember just from my childhood.
Yeah.
Those kind of where your mum's like, turn it off, you're not watching it, turn it off.
Right. It's kind of one of those, you put your hand over the kids, kids' eyes.
And yet you could turn on a Carry On film in the UK and see scantily clad women running around and being suggestive. And then you go to Benny Hill, and I have to bring Benny Hill because I know you guys absolutely love Benny Hill, don't
Oh my
you?
gosh, I used to watch Benny Hill every night, all the
Benny
time.
Benny Hill actually is a very, very sad guy, actually, very lonely man. And I think I think he died on his own. But I loved Benny Hill growing up. I thought he was very funny. And one thing he always says is, people have a go at me because they say that I'm, sexualizing women. But actually, it's the women chasing the men. It's the women hitting the men on the head, and the women, like, they are
Yeah.
in control. And I think poor Benny got quite a bad, you know, um, his view of women running around with stockings and suspenders and their boobs hanging out, and bending over a guy with a massive, one with a massive cleavage and a boob sitting on his head. I think very much so. It was a case of that's not right, but actually he was right. And then, because we had another one called Kenny Everett, fantastic comedian. He was a great guy. He was in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, sadly died of AIDS. But he used to have a group on there called Hot Gossip. They would dance in their stockings and suspenders. There was a woman called Claire Rocker. She had her boobs out. I grew up with that. And I was drawn to people like Joan Collins, who had this couldn't give a shit attitude very, very strong. If she wanted sex, she took it.
Right.
And then when she became Alexis in Dynasty, as you guys call it, there was a woman who just didn't give a fuck. It was like, I want you. We're going to have it now. Oh, I don't want you. So this is what my era. That's what
Yeah.
I grew up. Was that the same for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I used to watch Benny Hill. I would stay up because he came on really late. I would stay up and watch him. It was like hilarious.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think at the age I was, it was just funny.
Yeah.
So I didn't really put together that, the roles were reversed. The women were chasing the men, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just hilarious. So
I think it was very just cheeky.
yeah. Well, and Mel Brooks, his movies were along the same lines as Benny Hill.
Yeah.
He had a lot of women. I can remember History of the World. The Victorian women had the big wigs, but then they had the skirts were like showing butt cheeks and their boobs were, barely covered. And, it was like the men could just walk up and would like grab their ass and they're like, like just smiling at him.
Yeah, we had a comedy here, which you guys probably are aware of as well, called oh my goodness, it's gone for me. Mrs. Slocum, and oh my god, it's gone for me. I need to look it up. But it was very, very popular in the 70s, and there was a boss. He had a nurse with him, or he had women, and they were always dressed with their boobies hanging out. Sandra, you'll know what I'm talking about. Write the name up in the comments. And it was near the mark. It was.
Yeah.
Are you being served? That's it. And literally, it was very, very cheeky. But you think about the 80s, and we go to films like American Gigolo with Richard Gere, Body Heat, Kathleen Turner. The Postman always rings twice with Jack Nicholson. That's a bit of a 9.5 weeks movie. I had no idea what I was going in to watch when I went to the movies when I was 16.
Yeah.
And I knew about this movie, and I'd gone with my boyfriend at the time and thinking it was just like a normal movie, only to be seen something that and had an amazing effect on me and actually changed the way as a woman I was to become forever. That movie really had an effect on me, but from a woman point of view, where he in the movie's more the dominant one and she was the more submissive. And also like obviously Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct. These are all movies that have come out. And do you remember Wild Things? I think when Mickey Rourke, was it Wild Orchid?
Wild Orchid. He was in that.
And then Sliver, which I have to say, Sharon Stone and William Baldwin. There was a lot of stuff going on in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think they gradually moved up to things like that. It wasn't, we didn't go from not even showing butt cheeks to, the full Monty. But, it was, I won't say taboo, but it was kind of like, ooh, you go on dates to those movies because it will get your date warmed up. Yeah.
Well, Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Very interesting.
Yeah.
movie because it's obviously a Stanley Kubrick, but my God, like seeing Tom and Nicole get it on was quite a shock to the system. Cruel Intentions. I want to bring up the other one, Unfaithful. And what was the one that Demi Moore did where she was Disclosure? Michael Douglas was in it. These are all movies now where there's always sex. There's all different kinds of erotic clothes or moments or scenes, etc., etc. Do you feel though that women, if you go back to like the turn of the century with the Victorian, where they were having these nice little photographs, etc., to where we are now, and I wrote in the actual promo, are women taking control of erotica now?
I think in a way we are, because it's no longer just for men. There's out there's things out there just for women, but in another way, I still think we do these things for men, or because, I mean, if it wasn't for them watching and wanting it, there would be no reason to do it. I think it would lose all of its appeal if we never, if nobody ever saw it. So I think it's changed somewhat. Maybe the reasons we do it have changed.
I also think that as well, as women, as time's gone on, we've become more confident about our bodies. We've become more confident about our sex life, and we are owning stuff before. And I think that's generation change as well. Because let's be honest, porn isn't always healthy. Right. It's not always healthy. And so that's my cat going crazy in the background. And if you're a kid and the first thing you see about sex is a porn movie or a porn clip, it's like, so that's what it is.
Well, it's very unrealistic, and it gives you unrealistic views on it. Yes. I can remember watching a porn and very loudly saying, "I've never made that face." And I've never made that noise.
Yeah.
So you have to get in your mind that that's not real. You have to just, you kind of have to, even though they're showing it, it's just not,
I love that.
That's not the way the world is.
I love that. I never made that face. The thing is, this is a job, right?
Yeah.
The porn film is a job. It's a job for the woman. It's a job for the guy. If they do their job properly, you get a great movie, or a good movie. If they, and at the end of the day, I remember seeing some fine examples of porn, and let me tell you, I saw some movies that I don't think I'll ever forget. Now I've seen them.
Sure, yeah.
They have stayed there, and not for the better, because the thing as well is that if we sit down and discuss with our kids or family or whatever and friends, and we talk about erotica, we talk about porn, and you talk about it in a productive, healthy way, right. Then you're gonna pass so many good things on. But years ago, sex was seen as procreation, through religious backgrounds, through culture. Even today, sex is seen as for babies,
and it was not seen as something women enjoyed.
Carry on, sex.
Women, women were thought not to have, it doesn't matter if they enjoy it or not. they're only there for one reason.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if they enjoy it or not.
Well, no, I mean, it's like you'll lie back and think of England. And I think also as well, but, for me, I didn't feel, I don't think I think it took me a long time, to actually get into that point where I feel like, yeah, I'm sexy. Yeah, I feel sexy now. And, and where, I would wear clothes that accentuated my figure, maybe pushed my boobs up, maybe it took me years to get to that point. I had a very low self-confidence. And I think when you get confidence, eventually, that's when you start to try these different things, when you start to push the water. We have a model, well, I'll call her that. She was a famous page 3 model, Katie Price. She has had a lot of surgery. She's known as Jordan as well. And she started off looking incredibly beautiful. She very classic, just blonde, blue-eyed English girl. Now she looks completely different. Boobs are out here, lips are out here, so many surgery. And she's on OnlyFans. She's done, the whole porn side of things and magazines and stuff. And I look at her and I think, you're not classy. I don't know about you, but sometimes you want your erotica or your porn rough and ready, and sometimes you also want it not rough and ready. You want it, it depends on
you want it to build up that intrigue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I find a lot of erotica porn samey. It's like over the years, it's kind of like, oh, really? We're doing that one.
Yeah.
And I find that I don't like watching anything like that where it's already the story's made and it's like they're filming it. I'd rather see it's terrible, but people that send their own tapes in, because that way then you go, well, look, that's real. And
you want amateurs.
Exactly. Rather than people that go, right, hang on a minute, keep that shot, we're going to come back and do it again. It just doesn't.
I've noticed that they dub a lot of it too, and it just cracks me up because they're not moving their mouth at all, but boy, you can hear somebody is moaning to be held, and she's like straight face, nothing. I just think it's hilarious.
And
I tend to make fun of them more than
Sam Fox. Yes, absolutely. Samantha Fox was another famous page 3. Page 3, we had a newspaper, and we still do actually, called The Sun. And page 3, there used to be a naked, topless model every day. And it was the page 3 girl. And eventually they went to page 7 guy for women. And so a lot of women became famous from being a page 3 model. And Samantha Fox, Katie Price did that. And I take my hat off to them, because they didn't care. They wanted the fame, they wanted everything that come with it, and they got the boobs out. And men wanted them, women wanted to be them.
But I'm sorry, I'm just looking for my kitty.
Unfortunately, though, not all of us have got the money to do the plastic surgery to enhance or to bring out.
Well, you have to. I mean, a lot of women became rich and are still becoming rich from doing that. But you have to think of all the women that get in the wrong line and end up getting hurt very bad.
Yes.
Or sold, or taken advantage of, just because they got in the wrong, the wrong place with the wrong person.
I think for years, though, Val, women have been afraid to tell men what we want in the bedroom or what we like. And I think we're also been scared to say, let's watch porn. Let's watch, let's watch this. We've been because it's not what women did. It's not what women said, or at least nice women.
Well,
Um,
I think I didn't like a lot of times I didn't when I was younger like watching porn with someone because I don't do that. You know, I'm not going to do what she's doing, and I'm not going to act like she's acting.
did you
So,
feel like a pressure when you watched a movie like that? Did you feel a pressure that they would watch it and go, "Why don't you do that? Why don't you react
sure,
like
sure, sure. I mean, that's when you have to say, "Well, I don't look like that because you don't do what he did,"
that?"
or
Well, exactly. You're not Mickey Rourke. And I
I
think
mean,
women are afraid to talk about. Actually, I do watch. I've got my little, my little gadget, or I'm watching this, and I don't need you, thank you very much.
yeah,
And that's, men are a little bit redundant in that way, as are women, because men have got their toys as well. But I
sure,
think there is, in some relationships, especially where religious backgrounds are and cultural backgrounds are, where I know quite a few couples who are in this situation where they find it very hard to talk about sex, be
yeah,
flirtatious with each other and be sexy with each other. They don't know how to do it because they first of all come from a background where sex isn't discussed,
right.
and so it was a case of, look, it's, you've got to have sex to have a child. And they I've had some conversations with them when they say to me, I, I just, I know I had no idea what to do.
Well, a lot of times they're in those relationships where it's um, turn the light out, get in bed, do the deed, roll over and go to sleep. That's it.
Mm.
You know, you don't. I've actually, I have known couples that have never seen each other naked
Mm.
because the lights are always out. Um, and it's. I mean, in my opinion, it's sad because I feel like you should have fun with your significant other. You should be able to not feel self conscious with them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, the way people are raised, they hardly ever get over that because they think it's wrong to
Mm.
have fun in the bed or, you know, see each other naked or, that's not proper or, you know, it, I think a lot of time it's the way they've been raised.
And I think
Um,
it's still an eyebrow raise when a woman
yeah,
has sex with a guy. And what I mean by that, she doesn't want a relationship. She just wants to have sex when she wants it, and she's confident sexually and in herself. And it's like, thank you very much, next. And
yeah,
literally, I think that we've gone, women have got that very much that confidence now, that strength to go, I don't need this. I'm a busy woman. I'm working. I've got children. I come home, I'm tired. I just want, I don't want to, my husband wants me, or partner wants me to put on all the lingerie for him, and walk around and make him feel good, when most of the time I just want to crawl into bed and just watch some TV. And when I want it when I can take it and how I want it, and that's it. And I think that in a couple of times in my life where I guess I've been in that situation where I've had the opportunity to have it like a man, and just thank you, but no thank you.
right.
It's a weird feeling because you actually feel like I'm ingrained to actually have a relationship. I
Yeah,
know I've never had a one night stand. I'm just personally not into them, but it doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just not for me.
yeah.
Um, but when I've had that sort of, I don't want to marry you, I don't want to date you, but it's just kind of like that.
But
I'm
see, it's
confident.
ingrained in us to for that was wrong.
Mm,
It's in our head that we are supposed to find someone, get married, have sex, have kids, and that's it.
yeah.
Um, there's nowhere. in there where, okay, you can have sex if you're not with someone, you can have sex with anybody you want to. That's never told because
Yeah.
that's not how we're supposed to do it. You know, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
So, after drilling it in our heads for so long, we automatically think that. So if you have sex with someone that you are not married to or that you are not in a long-term relationship with, it automatically feels like we've done something wrong.
Very much so. And I think that that's the generation that very much we come from. The
Right.
generation today is very, very different in lots of ways. And I think sometimes, I think when you care about someone and you're in a relationship with someone, you actually do care and think, oh God, I don't know how to say this to them. Or, when you're with someone that you really don't care about and it is just what it is, you're more likely to perhaps come out and think, well, I don't care if you don't like it or you don't want to
Yeah.
do it because I'll just move along.
Right.
And I certainly see that more women are taking their sex lives, pardon the pun, into their own hands and
Yeah.
actually going, I want sex my way, how I want it. And there's a lot of guys that are turned on by
Mhm.
women who are wanting that because they
Yeah.
don't get all the other bits and pieces as well.
But see, we are kind of, and not necessarily by someone telling us this, but by what we watch and all this, we are kind of in that mindset that we can't tell someone what we like. We just need to do what they like. If they are happy, then that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what we like because it's not for us. It's we're supposed to do for them.
Do you remember when the Kama Sutra came out? Do you remember the book, the Kama Sutra?
Yeah, I know. I mean, isn't it like an ancient book?
Well,
I
it's
don't remember. I'm
basically
not that old. I don't remember
all
when it came
kinds of
out, Wendy.
positions. Yeah, the Kama Sutra was a book that come out, and everybody wanted it because it had pictures of people having sex. And oh look, you can actually see him going into her. And oh my God, you can actually see all that. So when we were younger, and people had the Kama Sutra, be like, oh my God, if you got it, can we even look at it? And we would,
Right.
it was something to laugh at. But actually, as you get older and you look at the book now, you go, well, that's a bit tame.
Yeah,
It's a bit
exactly.
tame.
It's a drawing. I want to see real pictures. But,
And so,
I can remember when I was younger, and again, 18, because you had to be 18 to buy things like that. I can remember going to Books A Million and finding a book, and it's just about that big. It's just a small little book, and it was a how-to book.
mhm.
You know, how to do the different positions, how to do, to them or them to you, or I mean, it was about that thick,
Was it a
and
guide to oral sex and etc. like
it
that?
was, yeah. And I
And you're
can
like,
remember
what?
just thinking, "Oh my God, I'm getting this." I mean, it was just such a big deal to buy that.
Well, it was actually the 70s when pornographic films really started to come out, obviously because movies were getting more and more out there, and you
But you
had
really
movies
couldn't see anything in the 70s because of all the hair.
as well. I was just going to say the rug,
You
but you
got
had
the
films,
bush and yeah,
yeah.
all the
It was
chest
almost like
hair.
they took their knickers off, and the
It's like,
afro would come out, wouldn't it? It
right.
was like there is something in there,
Yeah,
and you'd
that's why a lot of people had combs in their hair so they could part.
I have a story about that. But Deep Throat came out in 1972, and I actually didn't see that movie till a lot later. And Behind the Green Door, which I have not seen,
Remember
and
that one?
a lot of people liked it, and it became a big social thing. And then The Devil and Miss Jones, 1973. And after that, people were saying erotic sex and erotic films are here to stay, and it's going to be mainstream, which of course it has become. And I think
do you think
become more better filmed.
But do you think that it has lost a lot of its appeal?
Porn or yeah,
erotica or porn, whatever way you want to say it.
Depends on the erotica that you're looking at. Like if you're interested in erotic art and you go and look at an exhibition where they've got stuff up, in some ways, no. But I think with movies, we've become so desensitized to stuff like that. That now it's like, oh God, whatever.
Well, I mean, when we were kids or when we were teenagers, it wasn't all over the place. So when you did see a book or a show or something and you had bits and pieces of it, it was exciting.
Yeah.
Now it's all over the damn place and you can't turn around without seeing it. Well, in some way, shape, or form.
Sandra comes up with, in the UK, there was the Confessions movies, Confessions of a Window Cleaner, Confessions of a Bus Conductor. I think it was a bus conductor.
What was it? Red. I used to watch it. It's called Red Shoe Confessions or something like that.
Yeah,
I used to watch those. Yeah, and I think also HBO and Max, Cinemax, and all those. The late shows they weren't really porn, but they were these erotic shows that they talked about it. They talked about sex and oral sex and different positions, and they talked about it. And it was so intriguing because nobody talked about it. And you couldn't throw a rock and hit one. It's just like with horror movies and everything. They've desensitized us so much over the years. It's not really exciting anymore.
Well, I think when we talked about erotica and porn for women, they're very different things. Erotica to porn are very, very different, and there's a grey area right so much in the middle. So like erotica is like a content that includes sexual content, where porn is primarily driven by sex.
Literally driven, yes.
So a work or an art can be deemed as erotica, but obviously a porn is sexual material. And there's very much a difference between men's porn and women's porn, because we both like some of us like very, very different things. Women's porn tends to be, or rather classed as, sex positive porn, because it challenges the stereotypes that mainstream has put out there.
Right.
Most mainstream porno, let's bring up, they've shown, they see it from a man's point of view. And you got that movie, which, I found that music. But we remember that music we used to have. I don't know if you guys, where's it gone? Let me bring it up. What was it called? This was it. You watched a porn film and you would hear this music. And you just... you used to hear this music and you'd be like, there's going to be some, take your clothes off, baby. Come here.
I can see the big stashes now.
Exactly. The big 1970s.
The ones that go down like that, and the sideburns. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are very different things. And, like, what was it? The guy... the bigger the pouch, the bigger the pouch in the porn movies, like, he was packing it down there,
It was hair.
What?
It was hair. I mean, they had like a whole head full of hair. Nobody saw a razor back then.
Well, it still goes on today, love. Let me put it there, because most women like men. Well, actually, that's not true. Some of us like them hairy, some of us don't. But I'm meaning in general, I'm talking about down there, I think most people like them to be a little, smoother.
I mean,
And
I would rather not see a turtle looking out from a big bush.
Yes.
He looks like, he's hiding. He's poking his head out. If you have to hunt for it, you've got too much hair.
It takes too long. But I
I'm just
remember,
saying, I'm over it before I find it.
I remember when I was young, and it was like, and I hadn't discovered waxing. We're talking like early mid 80s at least, right? And they were like, it's a bit like Fern Gully down there, and you're like, what? What the hell is that? What do you mean? And then you discover that you start off with like the scissors, and then you move to the razor, and then eventually you go to the whole waxing laser. And then it comes to guys. And I remember dating a really nice guy, and I hope he never sees this. I was dating a really nice guy back some time ago. And I remember thinking, no, he's pretty modern. He's pretty dressed well. And we dated for a while before we would decide to get it on. And he kind of like, got to the moment of truth where he took the old boxers off, and it was just like,
exactly.
1970s.
It's like your hair goes back. You're like,
this 1970s afro popped out, and I was like, and I can't believe I'm actually saying, I was like, what's going on there? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, there's a lot of hair going on down there. Like, are we in the 70s? And he looked at me and he goes, well, I like it natural. I don't want to and I was like, listen, honey, if you shave it or cut it, it'll look bigger. So if I was
and I can so find it. I mean, it's, trim. You don't have to shave, trim.
Oh.
When you don't have, when all you can see is like an inch, and the rest is hair, if somebody ain't getting something. But
so it was very
Sandra said there was a guy in the States. It was Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Ron Jeremy. And he is ugly as Satan's butthole. But he was like extremely famous in the porn world. Very famous.
Yeah.
But he is not what you would call sexy. No.
Men's mainstream porn is about visual stimulation for a guy. So the woman is very much in the movies and in the picture. It's about the guy's point of view. And I think women's porn is more like in the head. It's more like that's where you turn us on. Right. It's not just we like the whole package, but it's got to be in our head. You got to turn it on.
If you look like a troll, I don't get any way. I don't feel any way. You could say sex all you want to, but so that the women in those movies were getting paid.
Sure.
Because if they wasn't, I don't see how he got rich.
Well, and also they gave young boys or adolescent teenagers, horny teenagers, they gave the kind of impression that a woman's only sexual goal is to be submissive to the guy. You bend here, come here, do this, do that. And often there was a lot of scenes in them, or have been, where there's rough and violent men raping or attacking women. So that some women might get turned on with that. Most of us probably don't, but some women do. And there's a lot of damage there. That's not teaching the future generations coming up.
No, that's literally teaching guys to act like that.
Yeah.
And the woman is liking it.
Yeah.
Now, you might find 1 in a million women that might love it, and more power to you. But most of them will throw punch you if you act that way. I'm nowadays
I love
anyway.
That. But then you come along with Magic Mike, and um, that is a movie which is about very much men, great looking men, great
Yeah,
body.
they're. I mean, that's not that they are no Ron Jeremy. I'll just say that.
They're very fun to look at, include Matthew McConaughey, obviously in the first one. But that's very much about women. And I, as a young girl, I went to a few lady shows. You know, we used to have them over here, lady shows, and they'd have strippers. Sandra probably knows because she's from this side of the pond, but they'd call them the
Lord,
strippers, girls'
Sandra.
night out. And we'd go along to watch the strippers, and they'd all come along with their different acts, and we weren't allowed to touch them, but we'd all dance, and there'd be a few drinks going around. And you know, the strippers was told, go to the quiet ones, don't go to the noisy ones, because that's one. And I went to one when I was first married, and I remember my ex-husband saying to me, tonight's going to be really good. And I said, why? What makes you say it? He goes, I'm going to get late. And he said, I'm going to get laid because you're going to a stripper. So I was like, what? Anyway, we did go. A group of women went. We did go, and very fine looking men came out, and they would pick different women to go up and do stuff. And there was a fire eater. He was a fire eater, and he had this sort of like great costume on, and he was like holding the staff as he was waggling, you know, his manhood around. And this woman, you know, she was quiet. He picked her, or they picked her, and he took her up on the stage. And we were all like, you know, as you do, yes, 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 you're like animals. It's like animals. Anybody knows women
Your true
at,
self comes out.
women at a sex, you guys call them sex parties, we call them like Ann Summers parties. Anyone knows women at those kind of parties, and also strippers nights, women are like animals. We are like piranhas around me. It's just the way it is. For some reason, it tends to be this whole primal thing of looking at someone, and you know, but it's okay for women to be seen to do that, but not guys, right?
But see, I never understood men or women going to strip clubs because, you know, all you're doing is getting yourself worked up. You can't touch them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to take them in the back and, you know, finish it. You're going to go home with, you know, blue balls. I mean, seriously, you know, why pay somebody to just make you hurt?
Well, the one night that I went there, this woman who came up on stage, he had his fire in his hands like this, completely naked and waggling, you know, waggling it all about. And the next thing, he was waggling about, and the next thing you know, she went down on him. And he was going, he couldn't drop it because he had fire, you know, and he was calling to his security guards going like, you know, because obviously that should never. Now, if that had happened for a man doing that to a woman, that would have been assault, and it was assault. What she did to him, you know, is seen as assault. But back then, when this was going on, it wasn't seen like that. And so all us women were absolutely stunned. She thought she was brilliant. She thought that she'd achieved something. And everyone after that was not allowed on the stage. And I think that
I would imagine
as the generations have gone on, you know, when Magic Mike comes up and you see how the women respond to that movie, and Chippendales and the Dream Boys and everything come along, it's a show. You know, here's great looking guys with fit bodies, and you know, most women appreciate a good body, right? But with tight asses and great bodies, and it stirs your imagination as a woman.
Sure.
They know the show they're putting on is for stimulating women, and they know how to do it, and we become like these wild beasts. So that when we come out, we're like, woo.
But then how many women go home and they have like the short, bald headed, you know, pot bellied man And they don't want him. They want the one that's been waggling their manhood,
And,
in their
and
face.
they shut their eyes, I suppose, at that point and think, "God, just get it over and done with thinking of him." Maybe,
Exactly.
maybe.
Exactly. Turn him lights
Um,
out.
it's weird because, like, it's the same about with erotica, whether it's a movie, whether it's going to see someone on stage, whether it's look at burlesque. Burlesque is,
Yeah.
is very, very beautiful. You have a stunning woman, and she's got the finest lingerie and clothing on, and the way to move her bodies. It's very, very sexy, very art. It's
Yeah.
such a great art. To me, the women of the 50s is when the 40s and 50s is when I think women started to take their power
Yeah.
sexually. I mean, the bras, people like
Oh,
Marilyn
the
Monroe.
pointy jobs. Those pointy bras.
Exactly. I mean, I'm jealous. I would love to wear one of those pointy bras.
Oh my Lord. I I mean, who thought those were sexy, men or the women?
Well, I guess somebody did
Was
because
it just like
okay,
to accentuate? Because it just, I mean, back then it was hot. Now it just looks weird.
well, I
But
think as well that so many women have on Playboy. Let's look at that back in the 50s. Marilyn Monroe, Kim Kardashian, Pamela Anderson, using even Mariah Carey, I think, has been on there as well. They are very famous women that have been paid a hell of a lot of money to take their clothes off, and they got
well,
paid for
I mean,
it.
even Dolly Parton was in Playboy.
I have not seen that one with her in it. What was
And
it? Was it cool?
well, I mean, you can imagine it was a long time ago, but you can imagine she got some big old boobies. But
Yeah.
but the women that get paid to do those, the celebrity women that get paid to do those, didn't have to go through the same thing that the bunnies had to go through.
Yeah.
And there's always that bad side
Yes, there is.
that you don't know about until way later. We didn't start finding out how they were actually being treated until after Hugh Hefner died.
Yes.
So,
And that
you
was a
know,
shock, literally to the world.
yeah,
That, oh, we thought he treated them really well.
yeah. But, a lot of them did things that they didn't want to do just for fame.
And it's very
And
much
it's sad to think that they thought they had to do that.
when you look at the pictures, looking back at some of them, when Playboy come out, I'm trying to think of another one. Hustler, was it Hustler?
Yeah, that was Larry Flint
Yeah,
with
Hustler was,
Hustler.
was another one. But I remember
See,
Pamela
see,
Anderson was one of the
see,
top ones.
Hustler was way more graphic than Playboy.
Playboy.
Hustler showed. Let's see, Playboy didn't show the action. Hustler did.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a little more raunchy than Playboy.
I was just
But
looking
then
down
you
a
have
look.
Playgirl for women.
Playgirl. I never saw that.
Playgirl was men.
Hmm.
It was the male equivalent of Playboy.
I'm literally looking down some of the women that have actually posed for Playboy over the years, using them as an example. Obviously, Marilyn Monroe is one of the most famous
Mhm.
ladies of the time that did that. I'm just opening this up so I can have a look because so many have actually done it.
I mean, Brooke Shields. Brooke Shields was
Yeah,
in Playboy.
Linda Forsyth, who played Crystal Carrington.
Yeah.
She did it. We've got, who else have we got down
Some
here?
were in there more than once.
Where have we got here? great names essentially as well. Some of the names are down here. Candy Loving, whoever that lady is. Where have we got?
She doesn't sound like a grandmother.
No, she doesn't, does she? Pamela Anderson was obviously in February 1990. And then you've also, and then Anna Nicole Smith, which because everybody I think remembers Anna Nicole Smith. She was well known as one of his buddies. She's sadly not with us anymore. And then coming into the 2000s, I'm trying to obviously the Kardashians were in there as well. Just trying to find the other one I was thinking about. But what it shows here is that women got paid a lot of money to take their clothes off, and guys, a Penthouse was the other one. That's right. Thanks, Ken. We had some kind of porn magazine over here for a while, and we would go and get it from the newsagent and you'd open it. And to me, porn's got to be sexy if it gets in my mind. So I've got to, reading porn and Jackie Collins novels and etc. like that, it was sexy because the way they described it. And then you come to 50 Shades of Grey as another form of erotic book. And when you read 50 Shades of Grey, it's got its points. It's got its points where it's relatively sexy, but then 2 and 3 just went down the road from that. Did you read 50 Shades? Val?
Baby.
Did you read 50 Shades?
I didn't.
You might need to read book 1. But do you think women are seen as erotic when they are dominant and they're taking the lead?
I think it just depends on how they are portrayed.
Yeah.
I think, that I myself lean more towards, the classy or, a little bit of imagination, rather than, full on like Penthouse or Hustler.
To me, erotica is individual, whether it's watching porn, whether it's looking at art, whether it's a book or it's I'm looking at somebody. It's got to turn me on, whether that's visually, whether that's hearing it, whether it's smelling it. It's all got to be part of the package. And if there's one thing, sometimes it can just turn you off, the whole thing. And I think over the years, women have been seen as in art, in statues, on movies, and in books. We've been seen as this beautiful vision for men to enjoy. And now I think that, when you look back at some of the historic things, think, well, why was there not like for women? Why wasn't there, good looking statues back in art and more naked pictures to stimulate women back then? Because it wasn't actually seen that women were allowed. It wasn't, as you say, it wasn't there for women. And now we have things like, as you say, OnlyFans, where you can pay $5 in some ways and you can watch all kinds of erotica, all kinds of porn. There's a gentleman that I actually discovered. I think I showed him to you. He's called The Bear. And he's a big guy, and he started off as one of the world's strongest guys, and actually he's he calls himself an erotic entertainer. He's covered from hair from top to bottom, and he does a lot of movies, potentially more gay. There's a few women, but potentially more gay, and he's on X and etc. And as a woman, you look at him and you think, wow, this big guy, for me, he looks kind of sexy. But then other things he does, and you just think, it's so individual looking, it's all individual. And I think the days of Playboy and the Top Shelf magazine are all gone. And you might get the odd, but obviously books they write, but I think everything now is on the screen. It's all what's on the phone.
Yeah.
and it's all on the screen. That is where erotica and porn has gone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because it's easier to get out there. You know,
Uh,
people don't have to go to the gas station on the top shelf of the magazines and get a porn magazine.
do you remember that? Like, the brown
Wrapped up
paper
in
bag.
plastic. Yeah.
The brown paper bag. I'm just looking here. Erotica is art, literature, or photography that deals with subject matter that is erotic, sexually stimulating, or sexually arousing. Now, obviously, you only have to type that in, and straight away you start getting porn sites coming up. Obviously,
Yeah.
one here called pornhub.com. That's one of and it goes on to others down there. And then Madonna comes up as well under the list of erotica. She comes up with her video. Do you remember that video when it came out, Val?
I remember watching it. Yeah.
Where she's naked and she's hailing a cab. My name is Dita, and I'll be your mistress tonight.
Yeah.
Only the one who inflicts the pain can take it away. I thought that was amazing lyrics. And there is a difference between, as we said, pornography and erotica, because
Yeah.
porn is very much visual, and it's very much more, I think, from a man point of view. There's a program over here, and I've mentioned it before, and I'm going to bring it in before we start to close down, called Naked Attraction. And it's a program that people can apply to go on, and basically you have about 6 boxes, and inside is a naked person, and it can be a man, woman, etc. And all you see, it's basically someone who's looking for love, or something. And the first thing they see is their genitals. That's the first part they see. And they'll come up and they'll have a look and they go, what are we thinking of the penis? Are we liking this? Is this a good dick? And the woman's going,
Wow.
well, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And the same with a woman. If the guy's there, they'll say, do you like the woman, shaved or waxed? What are you into? And then the next time it'll go up and it'll come up to the chest, and you'll see the chest or the boobs. And they're trying to decide which one they want, and they eliminate others. They go, no, I don't want them, their nipples are too big. Or, no, I don't like their bottom. No, I don't like their hands. And they'll get rid of them, and they'll see who they've got rid of. And eventually it comes up to the head. And then they're allowed to use the voice. And then they have to go out, and they have to get naked, and they have to come back in, and they have to choose between 2 naked men or 2 naked women. And then the one who's picking comes in and they say, so what do you think of her? Like, now she's naked, what do you think of her? And they go, oh yeah, she's got lovely breasts, really, really fine breasts. And you're like, what? Is that what we're saying? And anyway,
Wow.
they go off with each other, and then they have a date where they're clothed. So they've seen each other naked, and now they go on a date that's clothed. This is on British TV, and you can I love it. It's a great series. OnlyFans, social media, erotica, porn is everywhere.
Yeah.
You can even as a child, you can, unless your parents are blocking that phone, you're going to pick it up, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to find it. And it was Oscar Wilde who suggested that there is no such thing as an erotic pornography continuum. There is only excellent, I'll get this right, there is only excellent rendered versus poorly rendered sexually stimulating material. So what he's trying to say, there's only bad or good. So when we've looked at this subject tonight, we wanted to look at, erotica, porn. And is it something that you still like to check out from time to time, Val? Are you still
It,
up for that?
well, I mean, it just depends. Sometimes, it just depends on the mood I'm in, I guess. It doesn't, I guess I have to be, it sounds weird to say in the mood, But it does. It just depends on how I feel at any particular time. I don't
Yeah,
I don't often, but you know, sometimes I do. Sometimes
and I think we all
doesn't
do.
interest me.
I think we all do. I think we all like, if we're all honest, we've all gone there at a
Sure.
particular time, or still go on there at a particular time in our life because, we need it. It's scratching an itch.
Right. Yeah.
And I think for me though, something with either erotica book, or if it's a bit of porn, there's got to be something to hold my interest, because if it's just like, as we like to say over here, tits and funny, if it's
Right.
just that, I'm bored. I'm so bored. I want something that's gonna, like, make me want to. And why
Well,
do men always think that two women together is the most erotic thing going? Why is that?
I don't know. Isn't that like most men's fantasy?
What, two women?
Yeah.
The threesome?
I mean, I have yet to watch a porn movie that I was interested in the plot, but I mean, they're so well filmed and so
Sure.
well written.
I always
Uh,
found two women together completely boring, actually. That just doesn't work for me.
right.
Um, I wanted something that was far more, you know, tintillating, if that's the word. It's something that's like, oh, that's a bit different. I'm not your norm, without going into massive details, but I'm not your norm. But I mean, when I was married, I remember my ex-husband saying to me, two women was his, like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
really into, I'm really into that. And I used to just think it was boring as hell, like saying, I didn't think it was, I saw it as erotic, as in the fact that when you see art with women naked and they're all together, it looks, yeah, it's great. But I found it really boring. And I think that's something we should look at in a later podcast, is threesomes
Yeah.
and et cetera, because that's something that we talked about and we haven't actually looked at. So that would be quite an interesting subject to go down.
Well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would find that interesting.
Yeah, because for some people it's just like matter of fact. It's like, like making a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. It's like being there, done it, takes it off. Other people, absolutely, to them it's what they need to do. So I think that very much when you look at this whole erotica side of things, from going back to like drawings on caves and paintings and going back to before BC, to even where now, and we're going further into a new world, Val, where in future, like I was watching a program which I taped, and my other half said to me, have you watched that yet? And I said, well, I've watched bits and pieces of it, where sex toys are going into a whole new different century of virtual reality. And you don't even have to almost touch yourself for, we are, erotica and porn is definitely going further and further
Yeah.
into virtual reality and AI. Then, I mean, you can actually watch AI porn now. And I found myself thinking the other day, why would I want to watch AI porn? Like, they're not even real. Like, why do I want to watch this? So yes, I didn't find it very interesting. I was kind of like, yeah, bored now. But I hope you guys have found this intriguing. We could have gone a lot further with this subject, and I'm sure if Carly had been there. But I think also the other thing we'll be looking at as well is kinks,
Yeah.
and what somebody calls a kink, other somebody else calls, absolutely no, it's not. It's just something matter of fact. But I think, and I know it's a subject, and I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth, the subject that they've asked us to talk about, which is also pegging, which is seemed to be the thing in today's world. I've had a few women mention it and ask me about it, so I'm just putting it out there, Val.
Well, I'll learn something then.
I'm not saying a word till
It
we do
doesn't
that
sound like
today.
anything that I want.
Well, some people would think pegging is where you get a washing line and just put pegs on it, isn't it? Isn't that what pegging is? But women take control in that
I,
scenario.
it doesn't sound comfortable to me.
And I think they've been doing that for many, many, many years and centuries. In fact, I think it's probably been going on since the word dot, to be quite honest. But I
Yeah.
do hope that some of the things we've chatted about tonight has actually you've enjoyed and you've learned something from. I certainly have. How about yourself, Val?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure if
Absolutely.
Carly had been here, it certainly would have been like, I can't believe she just came out with that, because she probably did. Next week we will be back, fingers crossed. Same time, 9 or 10 UK, and 4 and 5 Central and Eastern, or whichever way it goes around that way. And it is a further subject on this. And you'll have to, I don't know how I'm going to actually put a promo up for it, because every time I put a promo up
Maybe
for,
don't say pegging.
well, I would never put that up. I couldn't do that.
I don't think that
Although it's everywhere. What I want to say is that next week we're going to talk about a subject. We've got a little series we're going on here, and I think we'll carry this on next week. And I'm hoping Carly's going to be back. We do have to be careful with some of the things we talk about, because we are on YouTube, so we have to be a little bit careful. But Val, tell me about your week and your shows. Do you have any coming up?
Hopefully Saturday I will be back with Miss Legends and Paranormal.
Right.
Depends on how things go with Moose. So
yeah.
y'all say a little prayer for Moosey.
Yes, everybody think send out really good thoughts for poor Val's cat, who's sitting on her lap right now because he had an accident and he has a little broken jaw. So he's going to need a little bit of help. And Val does have a little GoFundMe on her page, Valerie Snake, if people would like to just find it and donate. Every penny counts to this poor baby, because it's an accident out of the blue, and sometimes we're not prepared for that. Kenny Ballos will be back this week. Not sure what days, but he tends to pop on and off on the Castle by the Roadside show. And it's always an interesting conversation. Although I noticed Terry didn't come here tonight again.
He's probably watching hockey or something.
And Michael, we never see Michael on here these days. He's disappeared. We'll have to find out what's going on. I hopefully will be back Tuesday night with Robertson. It's been a while. I was supposed to come back a couple of weeks ago, and Scotty couldn't do it. So yet again. And we will be back here next Sunday. Hopefully, all three of us.
Yeah.
So Val, I hope you have a fantastic week.
Thank you. Hope you do as well.
I hope things go well with young man now.
Yeah.
For the music to see us out. There it is. And I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. And to everyone, have a great week. Take care of yourselves and each other. And in the meantime, get your freak on. See you later, guys. Bye.